Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Victoria-based hate preacher Jonas Kathrada launched yet another anti-Semitic-laden triad against the Jewish community last Friday. Add this to the long list of Kathrada's disgusting sermons where he called Jews evil and filthy. On Friday, yet again, he violated Section 318 of the Criminal Code. Enough is enough. Can this Attorney General tell this House whether there is an active hate crime investigation underway?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. First of all, I want to stand with the Jewish community and recognize how disgusting and deplorable these comments were, and this pattern of conduct from this individual. This kind of hateful speech has no place in our province. And we have given police tools and support to ensure that hate crimes are investigated in our province, prosecutors with new hate crime policy, and for people who are aware of conduct like this but reluctant for some reason to call police, please don't hesitate. But we also have a racist incident hotline where people can report this to assist the province in eliminating hate in our province. Glad that we can stand in this place against that kind of hate and all forms of hate and discrimination in our province, and certainly support the police in the work that they need to do to investigate this and all incidents of hate.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to hear the words from the Premier, although it's been 19 months of this carrying on, and it's not the first time we have called for this action to be taken. Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation sent a note and a letter to the Victoria Chief of Police, Del Manick, yesterday. In that letter, they requested that Chief Manick commence an investigation into the conduct of the hate preacher. Unlike Charlotte Cates, which was never actioned by this government, despite the hate crimes that this person indicated, if the police recommend charges, can the Attorney General today confirm that they will actually act upon those charges?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all need to be very concerned that the system is appropriately responding to hate speech and condemning it when necessary. We've put resources into making sure that police officers can get the training that they need to learn how to investigate appropriately and respond to any hate crimes that are happening in this province. And I expect the system to take this action very seriously. As the member knows, it's not the Attorney General that approves charge assessments, but it's my job to make sure the system is tooled up to do the work appropriately. And that means a series of things that we've done. The Premier talked about it, to make sure the Crown Prosecution Service has a directive policy on anti-Semitism, to make sure that police have proper training to respond to hate crimes that are occurring in any of our communities, to make sure that the system is set up to respond to people that are, for the victim supports that they need if they've experienced an incident of hate, and that's through the Racist Incident Helpline. I am always looking for ways that we can push on changing the criminal code to make sure that we are responding appropriately when hate crime happens in this province, and it's work that we always need to continue to do. Thank you.
Member for Kamloops North Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. James Roland Mansell is a 68-year-old constituent of mine. His wife, who has just recently passed, found him a doctor shortly after moving from Abbotsford. 8 years ago, their doctor quit, citing the stress of running a doctor's office. What does this health minister have to say to James, who has utterly lost faith in our healthcare system, still waiting 8 years for a doctor?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And it is difficult to hear when somebody is having a hard time accessing a primary care provider, and we know there are far too many British Columbians in this place. We know that we are experiencing a global shortage of healthcare workers, and that includes physicians, and that is why this government has put so much effort and investment into training and recruiting more nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, healthcare workers to build out our primary care system. Mr. Speaker, the primary care primary care system is the backbone of our public universal healthcare system here, Mr. Speaker. To the member's constituent, I am certain that he has registered on the Health Connect registry and is awaiting, and I want to assure him that we are doing everything that we can to connect him to a primary care provider, and in the meantime that he has access to the health care that he needs. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
After 15 years of supporting James and Tracy, their doctor quit, leaving a community reeling. Even worse, James told me that healthcare in Counts has gotten so bad that his 2 grandchildren, haven't had a checkup in 6 years. Doing more of the same over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. How is it acceptable that this government, after 8 years in power, is allowing children and seniors to go without health care?
Minister. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Doing more of the same wouldn't work, and that's why this government has taken the action that it has. Mr. Speaker, by taking the opportunity to open a brand new medical school, expanding the seats at UBC, increasing the number of residency positions for family physicians, Mr. Speaker, increasing the opportunities for family physicians to move and incentivize them to be in rural and remote communities out of the Lower Mainland, like where this member is from. Mr. Speaker, that's why we're continuing to take the action, and it is showing results. Mr. Speaker, we're finally starting to head in the right direction. We're turning the corner. Since 2023, we have hired over 1,000 new family physicians. Mr. Speaker, we've connected 675,000 people since 2018. This is work we're going to continue to do. I know that the member's constituent is waiting, and Mr. Speaker, we are not going to stop until every single person in this province is attached to a primary care provider.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Minister of Housing lauded this government's work on affordable housing. He said that housing is central. Housing is health care. I'm sure we all agree. But gaps in BC's services continue to let people fall through the cracks. Available spaces mean nothing if the units and services don't meet people's needs. Numerous barriers to shelter persist. Minimal storage space, limits to cohabitation, no pets. Many people have a history of experiencing abuse or assault in shelter settings. Housing options that meet people's unique needs, that don't replicate trauma, must be readily available. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Housing, how are you providing housing options that actually meet people's needs? Thank you.
Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Thank the member for the question. Housing is central. One of the core beliefs that we have on our side is trying to ensure that housing is available with the supports that each individual needs, their unique needs, and making sure that those are met. The member speaks about different types of shelters, and he surely knows that we have a whole host of different type of housing options available for individuals. We do fund storage spaces for individuals that need to store their valuable belongings. We do create units that have pet-friendly options. We do create options for people to be, if they're in a relationship, to be able to be in those units. We have teams on the ground that are dedicated to this work, catering our supports for individuals. If you see, for example, the work we did at Crab Park, close to 100 people, over 100 people there. It took almost a year for us to meet with every individual and ensure that they had housing that met every individual's needs. We're doing that work in Prince George. We're doing that work in communities like Campbell River, Nanaimo, Abbotsford, and the list goes on, Honourable Speaker. We know we have more work to do, but we are making some significant progress.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, this government has committed to expanding affordable housing. Last week, the Housing Minister committed to expanding rent supplements for young people so they can find housing that they can afford. All members of this House can agree that we need to create certainty so young people can stay in their communities. Yet bad faith evictions, rent evictions, and a profiteering rental market have created immense uncertainty, especially for young people, families, and people with disabilities. Vacancy control is one tool this government hasn't evaluated that could offer immediate relief. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Housing, it's been 7 years. Isn't it time for you to reopen the Rental Housing Task Force to evaluate vacancy control? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And there was a lot in that question, and I will share this with the member. We have taken considerable steps to ensure that renters are protected and that decisions both for renters and landlords can be done in an expedited manner. We went from some of the longest wait times for hearings before the Premier became Premier to now the shortest time because of the early investments that the Premier made when he first became the Premier of British Columbia. We have been taking steps to ensure that we reduce bad faith evictions, a new digital web portal now that ensures that people fill in basic information and verify that the information is valid, ensuring that anyone that's caught has a steeper fine so they're discouraged from doing this type of behavior. And we're seeing those numbers drop, Honourable Speaker. The member is talking about vacancy control. The member surely knows that we did have an all-party committee. His predecessor was on that committee, and they advised government that vacancy control would not be a good option to proceed with. And so I appreciate the member may have a different opinion than his predecessor, but we have been ensuring that we can do everything we can to support renters by increasing housing supply, by beefing up the rules to make sure that people are protected, and we'll continue to do that work as we go forward.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An Indigenous youth in the riding of Kootenay Central, whose father reached out to me last week, needs help. She was turned away from Stepping Stones Emergency Shelter because of her age, and the next morning the staff there found her dead on the front steps. Dead, Mr. Speaker. She had to be revived with Narcan 3 times and is lucky to be alive. This young woman's case is a catastrophic failure across multiple ministries with numerous chances to intervene. Her father has pleaded for help from Child and Family Services, from the Ministry of Health, from the local MLA, the member for Kootenay Central, but his pleas have fallen on deaf ears. What will it take? Does this young woman have to die for this government to finally intervene with compassionate care?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. It is terrible to hear of a story like this, and I think all of us, our hearts go out to the family and to people connected to an individual like this. Mr. Speaker, that's why this government is taking every step that we can to do to connect people with the care that they need. Mr. Speaker, for youth, providing more supports in schools. Mr. Speaker, establishing foundries, a safe space for youth to go to be able to connect with physical and mental health supports, substance use supports. Mr. Speaker, continuing to build the housing and provide the wraparound supports for families in need. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to stop doing this work. We're going to continue to do this in a place where everybody has the potential to live a thriving life and the life that they deserve to have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To say that you're going to continue doing this work is completely unacceptable because clearly what this government is doing has failed this young woman. She just turned 18. She has a paralyzed leg, a brain growth, and untreated neurological damage. Her father, a recovered addict himself, says that she has now lost all sense of agency. She's been begging for help since she was 14 years old. There were moments of hope, times she wanted treatment, but the system failed her every time. She now sleeps in a tent in a drug camp. She has been repeatedly sexually assaulted over the last 4 years. If she doesn't qualify for intervention, then who does? Why won't this Premier bring forward compassionate care legislation to prevent tragedies like this?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I can't speak to specifically this case and this individual, but I can say, hearing from the member, that it aligns with what we've been saying and what we've been hearing, which is encampments are not safe. They're not safe for individuals living in them. They're not safe for the community at large.
Member.
The member says that she was turned away from an emergency weather shelter, and which are usually operated by the local government. We provide the resources to them, so we can certainly find out what happened in that particular case. People don't get turned away from shelter unless there was some issue, and we don't know what those issues are. We can look into them. But I can tell the member that what we know for a fact is that there's lack of housing options for people, in particular with special needs. Thanks to the work that my colleague, the MLA for that riding, and many not-for-profits, we've actually been targeting ramping up housing for those with special needs in particular. I can share with the member that we've got a new 47-unit building that just opened up there at the Lakeside Place redevelopment, another 620 Nelson Avenue, Nelson, another one at 535 West Houston Street, Nelson. All of those focus on people who have, in particular, special needs. I can't, again, speak to the specifics of what the member refers to because, again, the local governments operate the emergency weather spaces, but we certainly can make sure that the different ministries can follow up.
Thank you. Member for Chilliwack, Cultus Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This individual's story unfortunately gets worse. When she was 17 and turned away from the shelter, the technicality of her not being an adult ended up in the travesty that we heard from the member of Skeena. But as a youth, she was also harmed within the system. She was molested in an interior health facility by a male nurse, and he was later convicted. But despite repeatedly asking to not be placed under the care of male nurses due to the horrific traumas that she's endured, she was repeatedly put in the care of male nurses. My question is this: why does this government continue to re-traumatize survivors like her instead of respecting their most basic safety requests?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. The safety and health of our youth has to be our top priority, the top priority of every single person in this House, Mr. Speaker. We cannot see youth and children suffering from mental health issues, from substance use issues, and from being traumatized by care. Mr. Speaker, that's why this government takes this issue so incredibly seriously and will continue to work in our healthcare system, eliminating all forms of racism, Mr. Speaker, working with health authorities and healthcare workers to build an integrated, culturally safe, trauma-informed system of care for youth just like this. I want to express my commitment to the member asking the question to continue to do everything that I can to support people in situations like these and to continue to work with her and other members on the other side of the House in this incredibly important work, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Richmond Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaking of justice denied, the NDP said they have graduated several classes of sheriff and have fixed the court sheriff shortage. But in the trial after the death of Pastor Tom Chung, his family informed this side of the House that one of the reasons why the sentencing was delayed was because of BC chronic sheriff shortage. So how many more families will see denied justice because this government cannot ensure adequate staffing in our justice system?
Attorney General.
I want to start by saying how grateful I am to the work that sheriffs do every day in our court system. They truly are heroes of public safety and making sure that our court system runs smoothly. We have made gigantic strides in our sheriffs, and we are very close. I'm really grateful for all the work that everybody's done to graduate more sheriffs. We've upped our classes, we've upped the numbers, and we're very close to being at full complement of sheriffs. And we will continue to do that work to make sure that their much needed services are in the courtroom and so trials can keep going. So I'm very grateful for all the team in my office that have put that work in for that progress that we've made. Thank you.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Well, here is the reality of Mother's Day in British Columbia today. A mother was walking her baby in a stroller through downtown New Westminster. when a man shoved her stroller and punched the mother in the face. Now, the assailant was a repeat offender. Sound familiar? This was completely random, unprovoked attack. But, Mr. Speaker, in broad daylight, just crossing a crosswalk. Through the Premier, what does it say about public safety in this province when even a mother can't safely walk her child in a stroller down in the street without being assaulted?
Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. I've said it before in this House, and I repeat, we all in this province want people to feel safe where they live, where they recreate, and where they do their things. The incident that you refer to is unfortunate, and my heart goes out to the people involved. She deserves protection. We have, in this province, a repeat violent offender program. It makes a difference so that people can get in control of their lives, unlike the member opposite. For example, the Prince George Revo is a good example of what we've done on this side of the House by monitoring people who present a threat to the public. A former Revo client recently stopped by the custody center in Prince George. They shared with the staff there how they've successfully completed addiction recovery and have now been able to reconnect with their family. Our actions are starting to make a difference. That's important, and it's important that that continues.
Member for Abbotsford Mission.
I'm sorry, but we've had 8 years. These are real lives. These are victims. In Abbotsford this April, Mr. Speaker, a woman was walking alone in Mill Lake Park. She was lured into a conversation and sexually assaulted by a stranger. Later that month, another woman was forced into a car and assaulted while waiting for a friend, again in broad daylight. And this week, women were sexually assaulted on a BC Transit bus in Victoria, midday. Why is the Parliamentary Secretary for Gender Equity standing idly by while women are assaulted daily on this government's watch?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sexual assault and how it shows up, particularly in the lives of women, is an issue that I take very seriously as Attorney General of this province. And that's why I've asked Dr. Stanton to do a full review of our justice system to understand why it is that so many victims of this type of assault don't come forward with this abuse. We've invested in frontline services for sexual assault centers across this province. We've made sure that our gender-based action plan is in place, and the Parliamentary Secretary is hard at work at that. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we want to make sure that we're there for every woman that experiences sexual assault, no matter where they are, and the resources in place to do that. It's something that I will continue to take very seriously, and I know we will on this side of the House. Thank you.
Member for Prince George Valemount.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another review. I'm sure that the women in BC are very excited to hear about that. Even when women come forward and charges are laid, justice may still slip away. In Duncan, a sexual assault case involving 2 women was tossed out, not because there wasn't enough evidence, but because of delays. Delays. The judge said it had run out of time under the Supreme Court's 18-month ceiling. How does this government expect survivors to trust a system when even a day in court is not guaranteed? How can this NDP government achieve their mandate of gender equity when women can't even get justice?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member raises a very serious issue, and that's the Jordan stays and how Jordan stays are in our justice system. We have been making strides in BC to reduce the number of Jordan stays down to single digits. Compared to Ontario and other jurisdictions, it's a low number, but one is too many. I'm working with every level of our court system, we're focusing on figuring out how to make sure that the timelines, that when people come to court, they get access to a trial within the time limit set by this country, and we'll continue to do that work to bring down those numbers so we can reduce Jordan stays to zero. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Richmond Bridgeport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How can women, including myself, feel safe and secure when this government is just talking the talk and not walking the talk? Even when women report abuse, survive the justice system, and ask for help, they still unsafe. In one case, a survivor's confidential files were allegedly accessed by government employees without authorization, and her abuser may have learned what was in them. How can this government claim to support victims when it can't even protect their private information?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we care about supporting victims of sexual assault. In fact, we care so much that we had to restore the funding that was cut by the opposition when they were in government, or some of them in government, that cut funding to 34 sexual assault. I want to talk a little bit about what that meant.
Members, order.
I want to talk a little bit about what that meant for people. I used to work and volunteer at a center that received women that had just been sexually assaulted. The frontline groups of people that are there to support that woman through the whole system, they cut funding to those centers. So over 30 had to shut down across this province. 30, Mr. Speaker. So I find it really hard to take when they're saying they care about victims on that side. We restored that funding, and we're going to continue to do that work, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Mr. Speaker, Tatiana Harrison, a 20-year-old Indigenous woman, was found dead, partially naked, on a yacht in Richmond in 2022. No clear cause of death, no rape kit, no explanation for how she got there. Her mother wasn't told her body had been found until 3 months later. It's taken 3 years and an external forensic review just to get a coroner's inquest, Mr. Speaker. How can this government claim to care when women must fight for years just to get justice for their daughter's death?
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, it's vitally important that our justice system, from the front line, which is the RCMP officers, all the way to the court hearing, is equipped to deal with these very important cases of sexual assault, to make sure that women feel safe to report, to go through the justice system, and they get their day in court in a timely way. It's something that I care so much about as Attorney General, Mr. Speaker, that Dr. Stanton is tasked with going around and speaking to all members of our justice system to make sure we can understand how to make every system there to respond in the way that it should be responding. I'm going to be receiving that report in June, and I look forward to rolling up my sleeves and doing the work.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard so many examples here today of failures by this government. Failures to protect the physical safety and the well-being of people across this province. A young Indigenous woman left to overdose on the steps of a shelter. A family without access to a doctor for 8 years. A mother punched in the face while pushing her stroller across the street. And yes, I did check the court services online. This is a repeat offender who had already done an assault causing bodily harm and assault PO less than a month previously. Domestic violence victims having their privacy breached, possibly their safety compromised, sex assault trials tossed because of delays caused by NDP deficiencies, seniors without health care. No matter what ministry, whether it's healthcare, housing, or the Attorney General, NDP failures are placing people at risk, Mr. Speaker. So how can this Premier assure British Columbians that they'll be safe and that their well-being will be cared for when so many ministries are failing under his watch?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we care about investing in people, investing in the programs that are going to show up to make a difference in people's lives, to make it safer for women that are going through the justice system, to make it safer everywhere in our street. When the Leader of Opposition was in power, they cut programs to services. They cut victim services programs continually.
Members. 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 Enough. Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are going to stay focused on the investments that we know are making a difference. We've had a chance through this question period to talk about how those programs are making a difference. Almost a full complement of sheriffs after decades of under-resourcing sheriffs. Reinvesting in sexual assault response centers across this province for victims of sexual assault, making sure the Revoy program is focused on repeat violent offenders in our system, reducing Jordan stays compared to the rest of this country.
Member,
we're going to keep on doing that work, Mr. Speaker.
Member. The bell ends the question period.